Recently, our Premier, Doug Ford, issued a state of emergency for all of Ontario, citing, among other things, what he's calling an occupation here in Ottawa. And the Premier is saying that the city of Ottawa is essentially under siege.
We're now 2 weeks into the siege of the city of Ottawa.
Premier, why do you call it a siege?
I call it a siege because that's what it is.
Just because you call it a siege doesn't make it so. What I've seen here is nothing but peaceful protesters. Are there people who have violated bylaws and other civil ordinances? Perhaps, but largely this is Canadians exercising their charter rights to protest peacefully. Excuse me, both my kids need hugs.
Of course, so many hugs Thank you for being here.
You have been speaking out against these protests. You have intimated that you will be enacting new legislation to give police more powers. And I'm reminded of what you did earlier on in this pandemic, where you gave our police forces wide sweeping powers to stop and question people. And thank goodness our police services chose not to follow through on that. But that type of legislation and that kind of thinking is wrong, sir. You're asking people to leave Ottawa.
My message to those still in Ottawa, please go home. To those of you who have brought your children, please take them home.
And some of these are your children, I'm guessing? Or?
So this one here and this one
You're
here
a best
are
friend.
mine. Yeah,
Okay,
that's her
very
best
good.
friend.
Very
I'm
good.
with my buddy Dan Zavet. He's over at the War Memorial
Okay,
right now.
we were just coming from there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you know or not, but Premier Ford the other day said that people should not be coming to Ottawa.
Yeah.
And he even emphasized, especially don't bring your kids to Ottawa. And I see someone's taking the time to set up some kind of game,
Yeah.
which seems to maybe attract kids to come play and engage. What do you think of the Premier's comments?
I think that in a free country you can come and go as you please, and I think that one of the things you should teach children is to stand up for their rights. So that's why mine are here and having fun and enjoying it. So when they're ready to drop the mandates, we'll be ready to go play at home.
And I'm curious, Premier, I haven't followed closely, but I'm curious, Premier, have you been to Ottawa these last few weeks? I know you've been to Muskoka, which is a beautiful part of the province, but Ottawa is also a beautiful part of the province, and there's something happening here. And as Premier, you should know and see with your own eyes what's going on. You know what? Yes, please. Unfortunately, you're following in the footsteps of our Prime Minister, the local police chief here, where you are vilifying people who are here to protest peacefully. Premier, the types of people I see here are arguably your kind of people. You never seem to miss an opportunity to put on an orange vest and put on a construction helmet as you're opening a construction site, and you talk about hardworking Ontarians. And many of them are here, sir. And you should be here too and see for yourself what's going on. You call it an occupation. Is that a fair way to characterize a peaceful protest? When I think of an occupation, I think of things like when Nazi Germany was in France, or when there's a foreign or invading power that has taken hold of something that doesn't belong to them. Sir, what's going on here are citizens of this country peacefully protesting in their nation's capital. This is something that's enshrined in our charter. Premier, you say that we've made our point and we should go home, as though there is some sort of limit to our right to protest peacefully. I took a look at the charter recently, and as best I can tell, there is no limit. There is no 15 minutes where you're allowed to protest, then you have to go home. Premier, what's happening here, I think, is working. It's got your attention, it's got the attention of other politicians, and I see change. But it's an interesting question. Why is all this stuff happening? Why are people here? Why are politicians and chiefs of police doing things to vilify these protesters? What is at stake? Well, if you follow the mainstream media, we'd be told that the reason we can't have these protesters is because what they're asking for is unreasonable. After all, only 90% of all truckers are fully vaccinated. And if we let that remaining 10% of unvaccinated truckers continue to cross our border, why they could bring Omicron into Ontario, and that would be bad, so we're told. It's interesting, this is the third week that I've been here, and I've seen people doing things that run contrary to the conventional wisdom that your government has issued. There are people who are not wearing masks. Your government says we must wear masks, and by not wearing masks, we are unsafe. There are people gathering in groups larger than 10 or 25. I can't keep up with what the exact number is, but they're gathering in the thousands, and your government tells us that doing so is dangerous. You see people here, many are vaccinated, but many are unvaccinated, and they're gathering. And yet, as far as I know, our hospitals are not filling up. Thankfully, the hospitalization is on the decline, but you might be right. There might be a problem with our hospitals in Ontario. The fact that they could be overrun so easily when there are only a small handful of people getting sick, if that's stressing the healthcare system, well, that's something that our provincial government should have been paying closer attention to prior to this pandemic and even during it. We've had close to 2 years now to invest, to staff up, to get our healthcare system where it needs to be. But instead of that type of action, what we hear is rhetoric about extremists and unsavory people who are refusing to wear a mask and are refusing to get fully vaccinated and are refusing to participate in this idea of a vaccine mandate. Premier, like Ottawa Police Chief Peter Slowly, you are boasting about how through your Attorney General you have interfered with fundraising for these protesters. And irrespective of what you think of these protests, is that really what a government in a free and democratic province, in a free and democratic country ought to be doing? And beyond that, sir, are your efforts working? Are people going home from Ottawa because you've cut off funding, or are you just strengthening their resolve?
Because we're the authors of history right now, man, and I want him to be in that book too, you know, and it's easy for people to be on the wrong side because of what the media is showing us and how easily they divide us, but we have a lot more. When we're together, we're a lot more. This is bigger than all of us, and so when all of us come together, it takes us to the next level, and we're gonna win this. We're gonna win it. I brought him because I wanted him to thank these guys. I wanted him to thank the truckers. I want him to remember when he's older that he stood for all of our rights and all of our freedoms.
Here. Yeah, I overheard you say, as you were walking up with your son, that there's some people you wanted him to meet.
Yeah.
So who is he meeting exactly, and why was that important for you?
I want him to meet the veterans, to thank the veterans, because, you know, we wouldn't be able to have the things we have today if it wasn't for the ones who gave their lives and still serve for us today, you know? So for him at 6 years old, you know, for me at 32 years old, growing up, we knew, you know, my great-grandfather fought, and so we were very well educated, as where the younger ones, they're not even in school. So I haven't heard anything. He's in virtual school. I haven't heard anything of them talking about the vets or talking about what's going on in Canada right now. So I want him to see it for himself. I want him to meet these guys hand in hand and you know, just really feel it, you know?
I'm not sure if you heard or not, but a couple days ago, our Premier was urging people not to come to Ottawa and not to bring their kids. What do you think of that?
Do the complete opposite if you're watching this. Get your kids, fill up your gas, and get out here, because you're watching it from the phone is almost desensitized. You really got to feel it here. Since I left, I was watching everyone's live videos, and I just couldn't wait to get back here. So guys, literally, don't just do the overpasses. Get over here.
I suggest you come here and see for yourself. These are regular Canadians who are tired of mandates, are tired of being told what to do by their government, are tired of the mainstream media echoing the rhetoric of their governments. These are hardworking, peace-loving Canadians that want to be free. Premier, come have a look for yourself.
It's an illegal occupation. This is no longer a protest. With a protest, you peacefully make your point and you go back home.
You're in the right place and you're doing the right thing. We're gonna win. We're gonna win. Why are we gonna win? Because of the love. Every single one of these people has love in their hearts for Canada and for every other person around them, and that's why they're gonna win. We're gonna win. We can't be stopped. We've already won. Thank you for coming. You're in the right place. Thank you, brother.